Welcome in, everyone, to Seahawks Aftermath on the Hawks Eye podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Coutts, and as always, my co-host in crime on this show, Michael Thompson, joining from Orlando, Florida at basically midnight or close enough to midnight, as Mike is doing some serious dedication right now and hopping into the show tonight. So we will talk about everything to go on from what Mike McDonald said in his post-game, radio show today, his press conference, having 24 hours to digest that loss to the LA Rams, and so much more tonight. And we'll get to your guys' Q&A as always towards the end of the show, so make sure you stick around for that. But if you haven't, and you're one of those people that isn't subscribed up to the Hawks Eye, make sure you guys subscribe up to the channel. Click the notification button if you want to be notified every time the show goes live, or we have these shows throughout, as well as, hit that like button, comment, be a part of the group and the community that's growing here. And we will get into everything to do with this Seahawks loss right after this.
Fires to the end zone. Ball is caught. Touchdown! Seahawks! Dunking it over the bar is Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's on the run. Wins 40. Pushes the man. 35. Look at him go. He's down to 20. 15. He could go. He is going to go. Touchdown Seahawks! Oh my word! A 67-yard run.
Well, as we saw yesterday, the Seahawks had a bit of a stumble in LA, and it was, on the back of some things that I think were a little shocking, Mike. Obviously, this was a closer game on the scoreboard than what it seemed at points throughout. Mm-hmm. And I want to kind of first off, Mike, get your impressions, on a scale of 1 to 10, how disappointed or concerned are you after this game?
I think the best way to put that would probably be at a 5, like right in the middle. And I think the reason why is I'm confused. I think it's hard to process that game. That was a game that I thought the Rams were going to win. I thought it'd be close. I thought it'd be a good battle. I thought it'd be a situation where you kind of felt, well, Seattle, if they were a normal team, would take care of business at home. And then we'll probably see them a third time in the divisional round or in the conference championship game. And then to see the offense or the defense kind of get shredded on that second drive, the terrible turnover, the first turnover. And all of a sudden you're kind of down real quick, 14-3. And it just feels like, oh man, okay, maybe this is just one of those things where the Rams offense is just absolutely cooking. And then that was it. That was it until you gave them another score. And so it's one of those things where it's like, we probably should not have been in that game with how bad our offense played. On the flip side, our defense was so good. I think Dan Orlovsky made some tweets about this. Some other guys have tweeted about it. Basically, that was like the least efficient game of Matt Stafford's tenure with the Rams. That was Devontae Adams' worst game of his career. I know he scored a touchdown, but like 1 catch, 1 yard. I felt like Puka was unbelievable, all pro, all world type of receiver, but it still was like our defense is so good. It's not like he necessarily murdered us. Kyron Williams was at that second drive, the first drive, like McVay had us figured out with the running game. And then after that, like, again, this is the evolution of the defense. This is the evolution of Mike McDonald. They shut off that valve really for the rest of the game for the most part. And so there's just this weird, like, I am so proud of the defense. I'm so bummed out by the offense. And yet Sam Darnold and Klint Kubiak, who we're going to talk about, fought back in the last 5 minutes, right? They each had the worst game of their career, calling plays and running that offense of their career, in my opinion. And then the last 2 drives, they looked really good considering everything that was going against them, to where they literally had a field goal attempt. Yes, a 61-yard field goal attempt, but there was a kick there to win the game that you had no business winning. And so there's that sense of like you had no business winning that game, which is a bummer. There's the concerns we're going to talk about with the offense and Darnold, but at the same time, I kind of walk away from that game feeling like I think we're going to kick their ass in a month when they come up to Seattle. I felt like we were the more physical team. I felt like we were the faster team. I felt like you really saw why McVay is a Hall of Fame level coach with his talent, and you saw what makes Stafford so good. But man, I haven't seen Matt Stafford hit like that in a while. I haven't seen that Rams offense look so inept probably ever. Since the Super Bowl loss to the Patriots. And so that, I mean, I know I'm kind of rambling here, but like, it's just so confusing the way you look at that game. After the game, I just remember walking around being like, I'm upset, but I'm also excited. I feel like we might have blown an opportunity to win the NFC 1 seed, but also I feel like we're better than the Rams at the same time. And like, I understand some people will say, no, the Rams were clearly better. Like, you don't shoot yourself in the foot not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. You cut those in half, you probably win that football game. If the greatest punt that I've ever seen in my life doesn't happen, Seattle probably kicks a field goal and they win that with a 40-yard field goal, to be honest with you. And we're sitting here like, oh, that's one of those games that a Super Bowl team had no business winning, but because they're a Super Bowl team, they won. So it kind of does give me that vibe of like, man, maybe we're a year short, but you take care of business. The Rams have a brutal schedule coming up, and we'll see what happens. Maybe you can still win that division.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because there's a couple things that came out, and Mike actually alluded to it in his post-game press conference, which I thought was really interesting, is we're still a young team. We're still growing. I'm still growing as a coach. And when I was talking to different Rams content creators over this, week, and I had Mookie on and we talked as well, the question I posed, I believe it was to Mookie, is what do you think is more important, and to the other Rams content creators, of experience or adaptability in this first game? And for me, it was always experience. And if it's experience, I'm leaning on Sean McVay. And that's what you saw, I think, was Sean's ability to use his experience as an NFL play caller with a veteran quarterback and weather the storm and not bail out on their philosophy throughout the game. And that's the one thing I'll say that I think stands out the most to me, especially when we do start talking about the offense, is McVay stuck with their formula. They've been a 13 personnel team. They've been a run the ball down your throat type of team at points and then hit you with play action plays. And they continue to do it over and over again. And yes, Seattle's defense played it very well, and for the majority started to shut it down. But with Seattle being so hyper aggressive early on, you saw McVay take control of that with the screen game and with the running attack, and Kyron Williams taking off. And I think he had, I want to say, 85 yards in the first half. And it's like, that's where blitzing and being aggressive can sometimes get you in trouble when you don't run fit properly. Ernest Jones alluded to that himself in the postgame. However, to your point, we lost by 2 points. And I think Seattle is the faster, more physical team, yes. But the one thing Seattle has to do is they have to turn into the more opportunistic team. And with that being said, the turnovers as a whole this season have shot us in the foot in numerous games. And when you give a team like the Rams a short field, they're able to turn most of those possessions into touchdowns. And that was, in some respects, the difference. It was the fact Seattle had to continually kick field goals. Yes, it kept us in the game, but you need to turn those points and those opportunities in the red zone into touchdowns. So for me, when I came out of this game, I looked at it as a whole. Initially, you're disappointed, right? Like, hey, I thought we let one slip away. But then at the end of it, I look at it and I go, for a young team that is now starting to ascend, they haven't ascended, they're ascending. I think you're looking at a team that is going to be in a situation where the Rams, when they potentially lose Matthew Stafford in a few years, because I think it'll be a few years, it'll be very interesting to see what the Rams look like. Because Stafford, in my book right now, Stafford is the MVP of the NFL. Even though he had a okay game by statistical standards, Matthew Stafford is still right now, in my boat, the front runner of leading the NFL MVP race, because he is playing phenomenal football, even at his age, and even given the back injury that he did have this offseason and whatnot. So they were just, the Rams in some points were more disciplined, and tip my hat to Chris Shula. He found a way to use a similar scheme that he used last year versus Minnesota, but tweak it enough that it was different. And I think that also is another thing that the Rams did so well in this game. But let's kind of talk about, obviously, the ginormous elephant in the Seahawks world right now, which is the Sam Darnold disaster. Four interceptions are under the microscope, obviously. You know, we kind of praised Darnold all year. And then he had this game. And you're going to hear it from everybody. Oh, he can't beat the Rams. Oh, there's Sam Darnold. There's the guy seeing ghosts, as everybody wants to say. Do you think these interceptions are situational or systematic? Like, what did you see from that when you saw it initially, Mike?
Unfortunately, I think, a couple of them kind of go back to, and I don't even want to pick on Darnold because it's just a fatal flaw of all quarterbacks. Pressure up the middle just affects these quarterbacks in such a way. That first interception was so unnecessary. He actually had decent protection. He just sat in that pocket for a little bit too long. And I know you're the coach. You would probably know better than I do. It looked like he had an opportunity to kind of move out of the pocket, scramble a little bit, and he even admitted it himself, right? And I loved his answers after the game of, I need to learn to take a sack. I need to learn to throw the ball away. And it kind of just was one of those things where that pressure up the middle and he panicked. And then there was the fourth interception. I mean, that was a jump pass. He looked like Tim Tebow out there, and it's just that's the moment getting a little bit big. And again, that one I give a little bit more leniency because at that moment, what was there, 8 minutes left? You feel like the game's over, right? Like Seattle was very lucky to even have a shot to get the ball back. The way things worked out, right? The Rams throwing it when they could have ran and milked the clock even more. But I think part of it is, like you said, it's a little bit of just kind of who he is and making some of those mistakes that we've seen all year that sometimes he gets away with. And then sometimes like bad luck just kind of follows you. But it also goes back to Klint Kubiak and ways that he can maybe protect Darnold a little bit more. And, I grew up in a 49ers family, right? And so like I've got some strong 49er fans or family members, and I know I have to live with it. I'm sorry. But they kind of bring up that this team reminds them a lot of the 2019 49ers, where you just watch them. They look like they're bigger, faster, and stronger than everyone else. But it's just the question at the most important position on the field, the quarterback. And for them, that was Jimmy Garoppolo. And Garoppolo, they would say, would make 3 crazy Jimmy G plays every game, right? And he would make 3 great plays. Like there was times Jimmy Garoppolo looked like a top 7 or 8 quarterback in the NFL. There was times where he would make 3 plays a game that looked like, how is he still in the NFL? How is he even a quarterback of the team? And sometimes those would be incompletions. Sometimes those would be a missed deep ball to win the Super Bowl to Emmanuel Sanders. Sometimes those would be a horrific interception that cost them the game. And he says, your team looks like a Super Bowl team. It's just, is Darnold Jimmy Garoppolo, or is he the super talented kind of smaller Josh Allen type of guy, or whatever you want to comp Sam Darnold to be? And last Sunday or yesterday, he looked like the Jimmy G, the panic, the moving of the feet, not handling the pressure up the middle. Now, Klint Kubiak needs to figure out ways to work around that, and I know you've got thoughts on that as well. But it's one of those things. It's one of those things where like it's a partnership, and this is. The haters are going to hate. There's plenty of ammo. I love the way he responded and fought at the end. I think there's a lot of things you can take away from those 2 drives that gives me some hope when we'll see him next time. I love the way he responded after the game. I love the way Ernest Jones responded after the game. So I don't feel like, oh my gosh, Jimmy Garoppolo is our quarterback. I don't feel like that. I do think there is some of those, oh crap moments. Like, and if you can just do a better job of staying in the moment, staying in front. And again, this is kind of goes back to that Niners thing. Niners in 2022 or 2023, when they played ahead, they were a beast. It's when you get behind, it kind of reveals a little bit of who your warts are, right? And where you struggle and where you don't. And I think we saw that on Sunday, and it's a good thing to see. Now they just need to go out and fix it. And that starts with Kubiak.
Agreed. And so for me, when I look at this, I've gone back, I've watched the all 22. And I'll talk about my feelings about Klint Kubiak in the next segment because we'll get to that. But right now we're on Darnold. If I look at his 4 interceptions, I will say 2 of them outside of the play stuff and the choosing of the plays and what they decide to do, that's a separate issue. But the actual decision of the throws, there's 2 interceptions I look at and I go, you cannot make those decisions and do that. And sometimes you just got to eat it. The one was the first interception when he tried to fit it 15 yards downfield, backing away to Kupp.
That's 7 points to the Rams.
Exactly. So there's one momentum change, which we'll talk about later on. And the other one's the jump pass. Just eat it. Eat the ball. Take the sack. Just there's nothing that's good. You're in field goal range. Just eat it at that point. Don't give the Rams any more momentum. Now, the other two, the one down the seam to Arroyo and the deep out to the wide side to JSN. The deep out wide side to the JSN, I completely blame our play caller. Yes, Sam Darnold threw the ball, but there were no other options on that play. And you had a situation where you did not give him an outlet to that side of the field. There was 3 guys in JSN. That's how badly designed that play was. And again, that was right out of coming out of the halftime. That was your first possession of halftime afterwards. There was not a single run. It was shotgun, shotgun, shotgun run. Like, put yourself back under center. You are not down. I think, what were they down at that point? 12 or 9, 14 to 9?
So it was 14 to 9, and you had just had a drive where you had bled the entire second quarter, right? And yes, I think, and we'll talk about this, but I think Kubiak was horrific in the final few plays before halftime. Just the play calling. They only took one shot to the end zone, technically, and he threw it out of bounds. That was brutal. But the drive to get to that point, I thought was magnificent because you were running the ball, the quick pass game, you were feeding your tight ends, the barnyard play. You were just hammering them and bringing that physicality. Why didn't you bring that into the next possession? Why didn't you just had a 6 or 7 minute drive? And yes, you only got a field goal out of it. But again, another one of those drives I felt like just would have suffocated that defense.
And then the last one, obviously, was the Arroyo one. And that one I'm putting on a rookie tight end, not understanding leverage, not understanding this isn't college. And where Sam is anticipating and throwing that ball is kind of what we've liked about Sam so far this year, is he gets back on that back foot and lets it rip. Arroyo has to understand the option net. And Greg Olsen, as much as Seahawks fans dislike Greg Olsen, he actually was really good in this game. And he brought that up going, there is a built-in option route in that for a tight end, and you have to understand where that safety is and really press hard on that defender that's underneath you. And Arroyo didn't do that. And you saw exactly, the safety is, again, able to come up, jump the route, undercut it, and pick it off. And so when you really go back and look at these situations that, Sam's in, they're also just, for me, again, the jump pass one, it's 3rd and 3. Why are we abandoning our run game? Why are we abandoning play action? Why are we in shotgun? That's the thing for me and we'll get to that shortly here on my feelings on Kubiak, because as a play caller myself and someone that has played college quarterback, and I have coached quarterbacks at the collegiate level, and I've been around head coaches and offensive coordinators, I have to set my quarterbacks up for success. That is part of it. And then also I have to give them the ability to get out of it. And I don't feel like Kubiak had a good enough game plan in this to give Darnold those options. So it's something where I think, I don't look at this and going, yeah, this is who Sam Darnold is. I don't think that. I also don't look around and everyone's saying, oh, hey, where's Jalen Milroe? How's his development? Drew Lock should have been in the game.
No, not at all.
That's just emotional anger on people that didn't like Darnold to begin with, and now they feel vindicated that they can justify their stance on it. I look at this and I go, yes, Sam Darnold is the trigger man. So I put 50% of the blame on these turnovers on Sam Darnold. The other 50% goes to your play caller. And that's who we're going to talk about next here, is this play caller. And I can see our chat is going crazy with this, so we will definitely be getting to that. But this is what I've got to ask. Why did Kubiak go away from the formula? And he's done that twice this year, Mike, twice. And the 2 times he's done it the worst is the 49ers game week 1 and this game versus the Rams. And the reason I say that is Sam Darnold in this game had 36 out of his 44 attempts were pure drop back attempts. That number is way too high when the rest of it is play action was 10. When he played the 49ers, 22 of his 23 attempts were pure drop back. 1 was play action. If you go and look at when they played the Texans, it's a 10-20 split. 20 pure drop back, 10 play action. Those are things I look at and I go, okay, there's your success. The Washington game, everyone can look at and go oh, well, the numbers are skewed in that one too. We beat the brakes off of Washington. quick and early.
Yeah.
Like it's not a real game you can.
And
they're
a bad football team.
Exactly. And so when I look at Kubiak, like the thing I'll say about this is like going back and watching the All 22, he had a horrible game plan. He had no counterpunch, and it looked like he had no idea how to get certain receivers open versus press coverage, because that was what Chris Shula did. He walked up and said, we're going to disrupt your timing. We're going to take away your quick game by getting these receivers having to, stutter off the line, try and create space off the line of scrimmage because we're going to come up and press you. And, people say, well, look at that last drive that we went down the field and K9 got his touchdown. Well, the majority of that drive and the 2-minute drive out of your own end zone, the Rams are playing off because they don't want to give up the deep ball. So you're able to hit all the quick stuff. Through the majority of the game, he took that away. And then the other thing he did so well is he did such a good job disguising the cover 2 shell or the 2 high shell, however you want to do it. He and Cooper Kupp alluded to it. They had a safety down in the box who then, as the snap was occurring, bailed out to his spot, which gives your quarterback less time to distinguish what the cover is. Because as a quarterback, you're taught what's the safety's depth, where's his leverage, what is he doing? Okay, if I know I'm looking at a single high, I can go through my process of elimination and go, I'm most likely getting cover 1, maybe cover 3. Maybe they roll back into a cover 2, but at the snap of the ball, that safety bails out. Now I got a 2 high shell. They could be in cover 4 for all I know. And it completely changes your processing. The way, though, that you handle that is you lean into your run game and play action. You go, okay, cool. You want to keep bailing the safety out and rolling him up? Cool. Make a decision. He's either going to play in the box because we're going to continue to gash you in this run game, or we're going to play action you and he's going to have to hesitate before he can drop back. And it's going to give us the leg up. The thing for me, and the biggest thing I think as much as people want to say Sam Darnold got impatient, Klint Kubiak got impatient. He wanted his explosive plays that he's come to live off this year in a way. This was a game you needed to run the ball effectively and efficiently like we were doing with K9, who I thought actually had a very good game in this one. Mm-hmm. And then just take what they were giving you. If it meant A.J. Barner had 130 yards off of 15 catches because he was just the matchup that day and JSN wasn't, which JSN still got his targets and his love, that's fine. But then exploit those quick passes. Get that out of your, use your play action and run the ball and take your, 7-yard hook routes. Like, eat your way down the field. That's fine. It just, to me, it was just like neither. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, as a coach and stuff, is it just me or did I see like absolutely zero crossing routes? Or is that something that you feel like Shula also was able to take away? Like, I find it really hard to see a scenario where like Cooper Kupp doesn't even get a catch until like essentially garbage time in a revenge game. I have a hard time, like Shaheed, I understand he's new to the offense, but like, where is the quick plays to getting Shaheed the ball in space? And I'm not talking about jet sweeps. Like, that is the one team that's probably the hardest to run a jet sweep on, because that's what like the Rams run has been built on, is successful jet sweeps and stuff. But like, where are some of those plays? Like, again, you've clearly created an offense, an ecosystem where JSN is between 7 and 25 yards down the field. Like, he's going to get his, right? But like, where this, like, and we know that Barner is like amazing down in the middle, right? Every time Sam Darnold goes 5 out, like in shotgun, he's looking at Barner 5 yards and he's hitting him, and he hits it almost every single time, right? But I'm just trying to figure out, like, again with Kubiak, like, if you're not going to, I mean, you just kind of nailed it. Like, he's obviously losing his patience. You have some toys, right? You're paying Cooper Kupp a lot of money. You've acquired Shaheed. You're going to pay him a lot of money. And I think Shaheed's still, like, he's learning, but like, there's a lot of that talent. You saw it there, right? Like, that pass was 98% to the end zone. Perfect. And Shaheed got open. It just was an incredible, incredible play to deflect that touchdown there, which, cost you a touchdown. But like, I'm just trying to figure out those little things of like, there's got to be something else out there. And maybe you can see it better than I can, but like, there's got to be some easier plays rather than asking him to drop back the way he's dropping back. And he looks like he's clearly sitting there and guys aren't getting open. And it looks like it's weird, like a bunch of hitches or going deep. And there's just, where is that? Like, it's like in college football, the video game, or Madden, like, where are those easy crossing routes where it's like, Like, what did Tom Brady make for 15 years of his career? Was just being able to stay in the pocket long enough to find that open guy 4 yards down the field, and then he would go get 4 more yards. And then you're on positive plays. Like, again, maybe I'm just talking as more as a fan and an observer, where you're as a coach and know the X's and O's more than I do. But it just seems like we have yet to really find, like, oh, there's that easy play we always get. Oh, there's that easy play. Other than like 5 out and the quick dart to AJ Barner, where you're trying to get him the ball before it gets picked off or he gets crushed. Am I wrong in thinking that as a fan?
No, and this is the thing that, again, with Kubiak in this whole the grand scheme of this, like, it looks to me like they took what the Rams did so well in this game, and I'm going to watch the all 22 again because it's fascinating to me to see what they did when you don't have the play action, right? And you look at the times that they did use play action in this game. Sam was 9 of 8 for 89 yards. Like, those are great numbers.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
And so the reason why what happens with that is you now suck the linebackers up. They have to respect the run if you're running the ball well. So the linebackers now come up and run fit first to then back out into their drops. It now gives you that space, to your point, hit the middle of the field. If you're not doing that and you're basing everything out of shotgun, which they played a lot more shotgun than I was expecting, that's where you get into trouble. That's where you get into these situations where the linebackers go, okay, cool, I don't have to respect a run fake here. I'm just going to get to my spot and drop. And now your middle of the field's closed because now your safeties can squeeze it from the hashes. Your linebackers get depth in their drops. Cool, we'll give you anything short and underneath, but we also know you're not going to be patient enough to keep hitting that. And that's where I think you got into this sense where Seattle got so accustomed to being this big explosive offense in the passing game that when it got taken away and the team went, and this was very much what happened, if you remember, in 2020 with Russ and Shoddy, where we had this big explosive offense and teams went too high shell and started to take it away.
The invert
happened in this one. They used to take the outside throws away from Russ and dare him to throw in the middle. In this game, the Rams went, cool, we're going to go to a too high shell and we're going to take away the inside of the field from you.
Mm-hmm.
And Kubiak played into it. He was like, nope, like they were daring us to run the football, but they figured we weren't actually going to be patient enough to stick with it. And we were eventually going to try and take our shots at points. And that's exactly what happened. And that's where they just capitalized. This was much of Sam making mistakes and Kubiak playing into Shula's hand. It was like Shula was the puppet master and basically controlling both of them, being like, this is what I want you to do. And when he finally, again, laid off and stopped pressing and stopped doing a bunch of the things he was doing, we were able to move the ball with tempo. When you went to tempo, he had to go and play off because he couldn't continue to play press. And I'm not the only one that's seen it this way. There are other Seahawk content creators out there that are seeing it the exact same way I am. I'm just not going to sit here, and people may not like it. People may say I have a disingenuous analysis where I'm trying to protect Sam Darnold because I think he's some god, which isn't true. I'm just looking at it from what I see as a ex-quarterback, current coach, and look at it and go, okay, there's always a deeper meaning to this stuff. Yes, there are bad reps, there are bad decisions, but what was the play calling? What was the sequence? And if I was in this situation, my head coach would ask me after a performance like this by our offense and go, okay, did you put us and our players in the best position to succeed? When you called this game plan, did you do that? Did you stick with our formula of what works? And I would honestly say if this is what occurs and I'm going away from our run game and away from play action, those are 2 strikes against me and I'm thirding them out. Well, the 2 strikes were those and the third was my quarterback throwing 4 interceptions and us having 4 turnovers. Right. Then, no, I didn't stick to our formula. I deviated because I thought I could take advantage of something, and I've done it before this year, and each time it's ended up being a loss for us.
Yeah, I think, you look at it glass half full this is a very eye-opening moment where you realize, and I think we all kind of thought, like, man, this is so much fun, but there's going to come a game, there's going to come an opponent, home or on the road, you're going to have to manufacture points without boom or a turnover or a defensive score or just relying on field goals. Like, that is what made the Patriots so lethal for years. They controlled the time of possession and they just slowly bled you out. Small jab, paper cut you to death, right? And it was just absolutely deflating. That's a funny deflate. But with the Seahawks, like, we haven't seen them be able to necessarily do that at a consistent point yet. And it brings me to what the glass half empty thought is. And this might be the doomer thought, which again is also a compliment. I just kind of wonder if how much Kubiak is like his mentor, Kyle Shanahan. I think Kyle Shanahan's one of the great offensive minds. I think he's a very good coach. But you just notice sometimes when they meet a bully or a team that stands up to them, Kyle changes his style, right? Especially after the start of a game or after halftime. Once his script is done, his personality and his play calling gets affected. When he meets something, he doesn't stay true to what he believes in, or he sometimes doesn't stay disciplined, right? And that's not something we've seen a lot because they beat us a lot. But we saw that with Kubiak against the 49ers. Like, Kubiak changed who he had said he was going to be and who McDonald said he was going to be in that first game. And I remember we were all freaking out, like, oh my gosh, we can't run the football. We've got no explosive plays other than JSN. And some of that has proven to be false and some has been proven to be true. But like, this is the second time we've ran into a team that I think we all think that's a real team we could see in the playoffs, right? Week 1 49ers and this Rams team, I think we all agree if it's not us, they're probably the Super Bowl favorite along with Philadelphia. And again, when like pressure meets them, Kubiak is not the same guy we have grown accustomed to in the other 9 games we've played this season. And maybe that's just me being a doomer or a downer or concerned. Maybe next time when we play them at home, it's better. And, we win some playoff games or get to a Super Bowl and we realize he can do that. And again, maybe this is him learning, right? This is feels like his first real go around where, like, no matter what, he's going to be around for a little bit, right? As the offensive coordinator, barring a crazy Super Bowl run, which we know we talked about that on our last show. But it's just one of those things where I just kind of wonder, man, like we've made fun of Shanahan for years for this, and you're seeing Kubiak kind of do a similar thing.
Yeah, it's the thing where when this hire happened this offseason, and I talked to different people, the one thing that kept coming back was, how does this offense handle being down by 2 scores?
Yeah.
That's a
question for that offense in general, right? It doesn't matter whether it's Shanahan, Gary Kubiak, Klint Kubiak. It is the Achilles heel potentially of that offense.
It is, but the thing that's interesting with Kubiak's offense, and this is where I'll say it deviates a little bit from Kyle, is Klint, I think, has a better downfield package. And the reason I'm saying he does, and this is where I say this is a hybrid offense now more than it is a true departure from the Kubiak scheme, is Jake Peetz. And I think Jake Peetz gets forgotten about a little bit in this, but
it's a good point.
Jake Peetz' expertise in the passing game comes from McVay's side of that tree, which, as we have seen, McVay has developed the passing game a little bit more to have downfield explosive opportunities than Shanahan. And this is where I see this being a marriage of the 2 schemes kind of coming together, with Jake Peetz in that passing side and Kubiak with the run game side of it. And you're seeing it mesh together. Now, I think Kubiak's still growing. And this is the other point of this. He has only really been an offensive coordinator for 2 seasons, Minnesota and New Orleans. And both of those years, offenses started great and they started to have issues during the back end. Now, I get New Orleans, there were injuries. I understand that. But this is his first time, in my opinion, kind of having some more job security than he's had in the past, right? The last 2 coaching staffs he was on got, depleted, fired after the season. This is the first time he's got a situation where he could be here for a few years and actually build this properly.
Yeah, he's on a winner. He's on a winning football team.
Yeah, and I think he's going to learn from this. I don't think we'll see that, and he's done it every other time. You look at what happened when we played the Steelers right after the 49ers game. We got back to our identity. I think he has 2 things that go on in this. He gets impatient, and he also, I think, gets, some people could say it's too cute. Some people could say he's overthinking it. I feel like he looks at it and goes, well, McVay knows how this system works inside and out. Kyle knows how this system works inside and out. I have to throw something different. I have to throw a curveball rather than going with my, my fastball and my, complement of, pitches. I got to throw something else out there. That's fine, but it can't be the basis of your game plan. And that's where it gets frustrating is he turns these moments where he wants to throw these variants in there and go higher with the drop back percentage, but it becomes the staple of that game plan rather than being, this is the sprinkle or the extra seasoning to it. That's where it gets interesting. So again,
yeah, and exactly, it kind of goes back to the thing really quick of like a great pitcher that has the best defense in baseball behind him. What does he do? He throws strikes, right? He throws his fastball. He makes them put the ball in play because he trusts his defense. When I think what we're kind of getting at is that Kubiak needs to trust what McDonald's cooking on the other side of the field.
Agreed. And, I think that's the other thing is he's finally got a defense he can rely on. And I think that's what, you go back to when Pete had, the LOB and like there were points where Seahawks fans would always get frustrated with Darrell Bevel. Why are we calling a draw on 3rd and 12 plus? It's like we have one of the best defenses of all time. So we're going to punt it. We're going to play defense and try and get the ball back in a better spot and reset. And Mike mentioned that today. Like there is that live for the next down mentality that, Sam's still working through, which is fine. Again, Sam is only 27, 28 years old. He's not a 37-year-old quarterback. And I think these are things where, again, I don't think they're systemic. I don't think this is going to be how Sam Darnold's thing is. It's not a thing that's not fixable. It's a thing that takes good coaching. I think Andrew Janocko is a good coach. I think Jake Peetz is a good coach. I think Klint Kubiak's a good coach. I think they'll get it right. I think it'll be, how does Sam bounce back? What do they do against Tennessee? And I get Tennessee's not a great measuring stick, but how often have you seen teams before have a loss like this and then kind of go into a bit of a spiral because they can't get out of it? Now this is where that team's kind of got to rally. And you listen to Ernest Jones, I got a pretty good feeling in that locker room. They ain't hanging their heads. They're not, looking around for fingers and trying to figure out who to blame. They're rallying around their quarterback. They're rallying around, and they're such a tight-knit group. They're going to get this fixed. And I'm very much looking forward to the rematch because I don't think you will see a similar offensive output in that rematch. And I'm just going to throw this out there. What happens to everybody that feels so vindicated about how Sam played that it justified their stance on why we should never have signed him if he goes out and throws 5 touchdowns and we blow the doors off the Rams? Are they all going to turn around and be like, he's our next savior as a franchise quarterback? Like, if you're going to stick on a side of it and you want to come out and you want to make these emotional, blatant statements without really diving into what was going on, then be prepared when everyone that is sitting here doing the work, looking at these things and actually explaining it, comes back to you when Sam does play well and goes, and you want to jump on the bandwagon and be like, yeah, we're not letting you on this bandwagon anymore.
100%.
So let's move on to this defense because this defense dominates. Like, that's the best way I can put it. Like, and I will say this, the Rams had a good game plan, but again, this is the second time in a row we've seen Mike and Sean kind of go back and forth like a heavyweight boxing match. And it's so fun to watch because those first couple of drives in the first quarter for the Rams, Sean was toying with Mike. And to be honest, as much as I love my Seahawks, as a coach, I loved seeing an offensive coordinator just toy with the aggressiveness. And, the one thing I'll say McVay did really well, and it, against our defense, even though our defense played extremely well, he forced them to tackle in space a lot. And you saw the tackling problems come up for Seattle again, where we miss tackles we need to make.
Yep.
And so when I look at that, I go, that's something that, again, Mike's going to probably preach and talk, but this is something I've said before where I think it's just a lack of hitting in the off season and such to an extent. And people say, oh, they're pros. Well, they still need reps. Like, you still need the muscle memory, and tackling a bag is different than tackling, Kyron Williams running at you full bore and fighting his way for first down because that's what he's trying to obtain.
Right.
But the pass rush, like, Mike said today, they didn't meet their number. They still affected Matt Stafford enough. They got him off his spot enough. You didn't let, to your point, Devontae Adams had his worst game of his career, 1 catch, 1 reception for a touchdown. Puka Nacua is still a excellent receiver, and that was one thing I enjoyed watching was him and JSN, but I didn't feel like Puka was this massive X factor in this game, completely shredding Seattle secondary. To me, it was McVay's ability to run the ball and get explosive runs and how he uses these tight ends, whether it's Parkinson, whether it's Higbee, whether it's Ferguson. Like, he did such a good job in creating mismatches with that 13 personnel. But again, Mike figured it out, and they played a lot of nickel versus that, which is something I don't think the Rams expected. I think the Rams were expecting Seattle to get into base, and they didn't. And I think a lot of that has to do with Nicky Manwari.
Yeah, no, I think it's really hard for me not to watch that game and not think we have the best defense in the NFL. When you pair the talent of that defense with our coach and what he can do, it's the best combination in the NFL. There might be a better defense overall. I'm not sure who that is, but I really don't think there's a better combo from coach to defense than the Seattle Seahawks have. And I think Sean McVay is one of the best offensive minds, if not the best offensive mind in football. And you saw what happens when you let that script kind of get going and the game is predetermined at the start, those few couples, the first drive. One thing that kind of got forgotten, does the Rams move the ball in that first drive if Witherspoon doesn't get the worst personal foul penalty I think I've ever seen?
That was so bad.
And then despite all that, they still stuffed them. Like, this team, when it comes to that 3rd and goal, 4th and goal, 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, might be the best in the NFL. The way they shut the valve off on those short yardage plays. Like, I kind of want to see the Eagles versus the Seahawks at some point, just to see the Philly tush push versus our front seven. Maybe I actually don't want to see it, but like, I really believe we might be the best in the NFL at shutting that down. And it just feels like then there was the interception, and yeah, you give Sean McVay and the Rams 1st and goal at the 3-yard line. Like, it's a score's probably going to happen. 8 shots at the goal line, it's going to happen. But it took 8 physical shots to get in. And I think that really showed right away, like, all right, this is going to be a challenge. And again, the LA Rams won the game, but you gave them 3 touchdowns. One was at the 3-yard line, and one started at the 25-yard line. In reality, like, Sean McVay cooked up 2 drives. One got stuffed at the goal line and turned away, and the other one did end up getting a legitimate scoring touchdown drive. And so, like, if you told me, hey, the Rams are going to score 2 touchdowns in this game, you're probably like, okay, well, then Seattle is the real deal, right? Yes. Oh, by the way, we're also going to give up 2 scores that's going to put them either right at the red zone or right at the goal line. It's like, okay, well, that's how you lose the game. And football might be that simple as that. But I just look at this defense, the pressure we were able to get without – basically, we didn't have our best game, but Matt felt it, right? Some of those hits were real. Some of those hits were hard, right? The secondary, you talked about Eamon Worry. He's just an absolute game changer. He completely affects and takes plays away. He is even, again, a rookie but version, but you just see so much of the way like Kyle Hamilton just shuts things off on defense. I know they're not the same player, but it's the same impact as we're seeing it already as a rookie. It's quite impressive. I go back to this thought, and let me know if I'm wrong, but I believe we will, and again, assuming everyone's going to be healthy by then is very foolish, so I knock on wood, but Jaron Reed should be back for the Rams game, correct? Julian Love should be back. Julian Love will be back for the Rams game, I believe, correct? That's another body to fight the run game, and that's another secondary player that I think we both agree is probably a better tackler than Kobe Bryant at this stage and our more sure tackler. I know he hasn't played a lot this year, but like, I just feel like if you give Seattle those 2 guys and you give them the opportunity at home, I just feel like that defense is going to rise up. And just, again, the Seahawks should have lost that game 31-10, 31-7. We should be today hearing about the Rams are going to go to the Super Bowl. The Seahawks are a cool story, but like, they're going to be that 5 seed that wins 1 game then loses. No, I walked out of that game thinking that's a defense that is so good that if you just don't turn the ball over and you just figure out to be a decent running football team and make a couple plays, you might screw around and be playing in the NFC Championship and like have the lead in the 4th quarter. Or you might screw around and find yourself in Santa Clara playing for the Super Bowl because the defense is that good. I truly believe, like, is it 2015, Broncos good, LOB good? No, it hasn't proven that yet. but there's a level of dominance that I don't think I've seen in the NFL in quite some time. And it makes me kind of think about, honestly, a little bit of that Denver Broncos team, where it's just an amazing army of pass rushers and then a great secondary. And oh man, it just sucks losing that game because the defense was so good. And you could feel it in Ernest Jones's answers in the media afterwards. Like I feel like he knows, like, oh, we're going to whoop their ass the next time we play them because like we trust our quarterback. And yeah, he messed up, but like we've got their number. And it, again, maybe this is me as a fan. It definitely, that game felt a lot like when 2012, the Seahawks went to San Francisco, right? And kind of got beat in a game they didn't play very well. And the score was kind of not indicative of how close it was. And again, maybe it's just we're getting close to the holidays, a late night game at home in the cold. I just feel like this is building a momentum to where Seattle really might make a statement on that Thursday night game against the Rams. Does that mean they're going to win the West? Not necessarily. And that's the bummer of losing this game.
It's really funny that you bring up that particular game because that is something I've kind of said about the Seahawks with that, game this against the Rams, as I felt this was early 2012 Seahawks Rams. And the Seahawks lost that game, I think it was 13-6. Like it was a one-score game again. And, you go to the box score in that game. Russell was horrible in that game. Statistically speaking, he was 9 of 23 for 122 yards and an interception.
Yeah, it was a Thursday night game too, I believe.
It was. And like you look at the offense as a whole, like our leading receiver in that game was Ben Obamanu. Like, Marshawn had a bunch of carries, 19 for 103. But that was a game that, again, we had some turnovers in that game that caused us to, not be able to put the ball in the end zone when we needed to. And then they learned, they came back, and that's when they laid the 42-13. And I'm not saying that's going to happen in this situation, but this Seahawks team feels close to that ascension point like the 2012 team did, where they're close. And it took a disastrous offensive performance, and you still were 2 points off in a 61-yard winning field goal away from potentially winning that game. I look at it and I just go, if you take away at least 2 of those interceptions, especially in our end of the field, that game's probably a little bit different. And, if you lean into your run game and you let Ken Walker keep going, which I believe Mike McDonald even said today that Ken's earned more touches, which, kind of
I agree.
Makes sense. Like he's starting to get going in this scheme, which is nice to see. There's the way I look at it, and this is kind of how I'll wrap this whole thing up. The defense proved again why they are so good, and they're still missing pieces. And it'll be very interesting once Julian Love's back, once Jaron Reed's back, once Ernest is even healthier, because I think his knee was limiting him a bit. It'll be very interesting to see how good this team can get. Reek still played well in this game. Joe played well as a third corner in this game in some respects. Witherspoon played well. Like, Ty Okada, I thought, struggled in this game. I thought he had some good moments and he had some bad moments, and some of his run fits were not nearly as good as they should have been. But overall, the defense did its job. The offense couldn't hold up its end of the bargain. And on special teams, again, punt coverage and kickoff was good. Myers was, 3 of 4 on field goals, and the one he missed was a 61-yarder. So I'm not going to totally blame him for that one. But it's, again, I have a lot of optimism coming out of this game. It's not all, the sky's falling. They are going to just go on this massive losing streak. This team is going to bounce back. I think this is a playoff team. Now, they have things to fix to go into the playoffs and be a successful playoff team. And I think that's the biggest thing that this team's got to figure out is how to play complementary football. And that's not turning the ball over. That's the offense, Klint and Darnold together, both going, hey, Darnold going, I can take a sack here. We can punt the ball, and this defense is going to go get us the ball back. And at the same point, Klint going, yeah, I can run the ball, be more patient, dink and dunk, eat the clock, whatever, take a 10, 12 play drive down the field, score a touchdown out of it, and rely on my defense. I don't need to panic and press this. I'm going full on. We're going to go aerial assault on a team. And so, I think those things, again, the one point for me out of this all, Mike, that stood out massively was Sam Darnold entering, I think it was halfway through the third quarter, had 25 pass attempts. he averages like 24 to 28 in a game.
Yeah.
Why in the third quarter of a game you are no more down than 11 points is your quarterback already at that high of a number when it comes to passing the football? And it's not play action, it's pure drop back, set up for success. But Mike and his guys held up their end. So let's talk about this, Mike, and let's talk about some updates here. So Mike McDonald today, Gray Zabel, we got some good news on that front. He is day to day, week to week. No structural damage, it looks like, which is a big positive, considering how bad it could have been. And then they put Christian Haynes in the game, and Christian Haynes almost sacked Sam Darnold. He got shoved back so quickly into his lap, which was absolutely mind-blowing to me. I also found that interesting. I want to get your thoughts on it. Did you find it interesting they threw Christian Haynes in the game rather than Bryce Cabledew, who, as Haynes has basically been on the bench, or on IR, I should say, for the majority of the season, to throw him in that game against a Braden Fisk, a Poona Ford, Turner and those guys, rather than Bryce Cabledew, who's been taking at least some live game reps?
It is interesting. It just makes you wonder if they just thought he had a better chance in that matchup. Because again, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Why would you give the third string guy the reps instead of the backup guy like you had mentioned? I don't have a theory behind it other than they thought he had a better chance maybe athletically or strength-wise to hold up there, and it did not look awesome. Again, just doesn't look like a pick that's necessarily worked out.
Yeah, it looks like a pick to me that'll be moved on, and it'll be definitely something. But overall, like, it sounds like on Mike's show he did talk a little bit about Julian Love and that they plan on getting Love back here soon once he comes off his IR stint, which I think should be what he went on IR week just before the Commanders game.
Yeah. So after next week, right?
After next week, he should be back. So again, like, I don't expect Zabel to play this week. They're playing the Titans. I think this is either Christian Haynes or Bryce Cabledew gets the start there at the, the left guard spot. And I expect them to still be able to function as an offense. Jeffrey Simmons is going to be a problem, yes, because he's an all-pro level player in the middle. But we'll see if this team can hold up in that regard. But outside of that, like, you listen to Mike talk today, you listen to his kind of level of, I wouldn't say optimism, but just, again, like, we're going to get back at it. We're going to go to work. It's not the end of the world. Like, I think this team's going to be fine in the long run. And honestly, I look ahead to this Titans matchup as a perfect get-right game. You have a team that is probably the worst in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. Everything you heard sounds like a coach and a team that realizes they kind of blew an opportunity to kind of put a stranglehold on the one seed in the West and basically put all the pressure on everyone else. Doesn't mean they're out of the fight. They're far from it, right? You're essentially a game out of the division. You're a game out of the one seed right now, and obviously tiebreakers all got to get played out. But I look at what they said, it just seems like a team that understands they missed an opportunity, but realize why they missed the opportunity is because of how good they might be or how good they are. And I think they believe and they know how good they are. And I think that's the sign of a team that's starting to turn that corner into not just a sneaky hot playoff team, but a true contender, right? And so I really like to hear that. And then nothing better, man, than a team bonding down in Nashville while you kick the living shit out of the Titans, right? It's the NFL, anything can happen. But I think we've learned with McDonald, and when he loses on the road, it's to really, really good teams, right? Maybe the one seeds are the only teams on the road that can beat him. Everyone else is just, lambs for the slaughter. And then you come home, you're going to get your reinforcements on defense, potentially with Love and Reed shortly after that. You get the Vikings that look like they're in an absolute disarray, free fall right now. Again, you never know, but like the quarterback situation there looks really rough. And then you go to Atlanta, which just lost Michael Penix. Kirk Cousins will have gotten 2 games, so I expect him to be a better version of himself. But Kirk Cousins has been a guy that Seattle, doesn't matter who we have had as our coach or who's been on our defense, we've given him fits. And last year was really the end of the Kirk Cousins era in Atlanta, or it was supposed to be because of what we did to him. I don't think you can ask for a better 3-game stretch considering you're going to the East Coast twice. I really don't. I think this is a great month to, really get right, get to 10-3 and load up and get ready for I really don't think it's hyperbole, and maybe again a little bit, but like I think you can make a case that Thursday night game with the Rams, if you go 3-0 here, will be the biggest regular season game the Seahawks have had since the division title game at home against the 49ers in 2019? Or do you even want to go? Do you want to go as far back as the Sunday night game in 2012, when I think Seattle really announced themselves on national television that this is a team that's going to win the Super Bowl in the next year or two? They might even win 2 or 3. We'll see. Like, I feel like those are the last 2 games that I feel like will be as build up. I mean, you're looking at a real scenario where both of those teams are 10-3, or the Rams are 11-2, and we're 10-3 on that Thursday night game. That might be the greatest Thursday night football game in the history of the NFL, to be honest with you.
No, it really could be. And I think that's what, the NFL is super excited about with that game, is the possibility of that for them. You look at the Seahawks schedule coming up. We have the Titans, then we play the Vikings, then we play the Falcons, then we play the Colts, and then it's that
Colts.
matchup.
My bad. I forgot the Colts come up before. My bad.
Yeah. So you've got 4 games right now that I think, Seattle could be 11-3 walking into that game, and the Rams could be 12-2. And you could be having the discussion at that point, because who knows what the 49ers do. You could have a discussion being that's your division title game. Like, whoever wins that game is going to win the division, or it allows Seattle to have an opportunity. It could be really interesting. But you know what, Mike, we've kind of rambled on quite a bit here for the last hour. So let's get into our 12's Q&A blitz here. And there's been some real good ones. And I'm going to go back to the top of the chat and start going down. But first off, we've got Kumar coming in with greetings and well wishes, taking a break from football content after this week. But as always, go Hawks. Thank you for the $5 donation. Appreciate it. We've got our good friend Dan Viens in the chat. Appreciate you being in here, Dan.
What's up, Dan?
Your show earlier today. Goes, what are your thoughts on how they're using or not using Robbie Ouzts? Feels like he's not leading into the hole on running plays, that he's essentially window dressing. So it's actually funny watching back the All-22. I can exactly agree with you on this, Dan. It does feel like that. It feels like they're using him as like a seal blocker rather than an impact lead blocker. And they're moving him and they're letting him help set the edge in the zone. I'd like to see them let him lead into more of the hole for the running back and really do what he did in like Pittsburgh and blow up a linebacker and make that impact block, then just come to the edge and seal and try and work to the second level. So I don't know go ahead.
I was going to say fan question here. Do we know that he can? Do you think it's more of an Ouzts problem, a schematic problem, or is it the fact that Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet are not exactly that type of running back that I feel like accompany a fullback well?
This is what I'll say I think is another interesting point to add to this. I think this also has to do with the Eric Saubert injury. Because as much as Callerup's been good,
that holding call.
I don't think that holding call is a prime example of a rookie tight end. I think this is where they're using Ouzts to help with what Eric Saubert did, because there were a lot of times you'd see Saubert lined up as either the wing tight end, and then you'd let Robbie Ouzts lead to that, which is what we saw in Pittsburgh. That's where I think you're seeing them use Ouzts in that regard to kind of help do some of the edge setting that Saubert did. And that's why I think the Saubert injury was one, when it happened, I kind of was like, this might be a bigger injury than we realized, because of some of the dirty work he does on a lot of the run plays, frees up Robbie Ouzts. So no, Dan, that's something I've noticed as well. We got Cheeky in here, who's a Rams fan, and always appreciate his perspective on things. He goes, what are your thoughts on Forbes versus JSN?
He was good.
Forbes played well. I still think JSN had his day, but I thought Forbes did probably one of the better jobs all year of sticking with JSN.
I also think you can go back to the case. I don't mean to beat Kubiak again, but that panic, the pressure, the scheme kind of changing because you were down 14-3 pretty quickly, which should not be a score that makes you leave your scheme in the first quarter with plenty of time to go. But I definitely think it did impact some of the decision-making and some of the play calls there.
No, I definitely, agree with that. I'm just looking back earlier in the chat, see if I missed anything. This is one. Slarty comes in with, seems like Myers has been shanking kicks a bit this year. It's something I noticed. I know Brandon, Kane, Mookie, and Dan and myself kind of noticed it a little bit at training camp that he pulled quite a few in training camp. He's been pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's just points in time where sometimes he puts too much or tries to put too much leg instead of just the accuracy point. And sometimes that's where you see those push occurs. Again, Myers is now the leading scorer and field goal kicker in franchise history at this point. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what transpires from there. Let's see what else. I'm just looking through here. We got Brian here. He goes, throwing into the teeth of the Rams secondary when they were giving us light boxes was inexplicable. They accounted for a few of those turnovers. Yeah, this is, again, what I saw watching the game back. Like, there wasn't a counterpunch from Kubiak. It was, okay, cool, we're going to throw outside. And it was like the Rams were just like, hey, yeah, we'll just sit out there. Like, they just waited for the Seahawks to play into it. Sheila was just saying, you're going to do this, Kubiak. I know you're going to do it, so here you go. What else do we got? John McGrath, why does Kubiak abandon the game plan that has worked so well when playing the 49ers and Rams? It's weird. Again, I think he overthinks it. I think he tries to throw curveballs when he just needs to throw his pitches. Like, I look at it this way. If you're running the ball, and again, the max that score was out of reach was 11. It's a touchdown or two touchdowns. You want to go ahead, touchdown, a field goal, whatever it is. You were never really out of that game if you would continue to run the ball and stay with play action and chew up the clock and take those opportunities.
You were never out of that game. That's what's so frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going through so many comments. Appreciate everybody in the chat.
It's awesome.
What else do we got? Oh, Kumar here. Greg Olsen was very even-handed this game, don't you think? Yeah, he was. Greg Olsen's one of my favorite listens. An interesting conversation with a bunch of fans in the 12 Talk Pod watch party that they had going on over there. And if you guys haven't subbed up to 12 Talk Pod, go do that. Josh and Mitch do a fantastic job over there, so make sure you guys go sub up to their channel as well with Dan Viens and Seahawks Forever. But yeah, no, we had an interesting chat about Greg Olsen and some of the fans, and Amy being one of them, our moderator in the chat, brought up a really good point that when Greg Olsen left and went to TV, he had a pretty sour taste in his mouth from his experience with the Seahawks. And he kind of let it be known for that first little bit with how he talked about that team. I think it's the same thing Richard had too. You know, you look at Richard on that Thursday night panel that one night where Marshawn came up to him and was like, hey, where'd you get your ring? And Shim's like, I don't care, and kind of had his whole attitude about it. It's hard for these players sometimes, I think, when they go from being a player to into that profession of being an analyst, to really have the emotional separation of a team that they feel has wronged them. And I think Greg has gotten much better at that the longer he has been in his role. I think he's the best analyst Fox has. I think he's way better than Tom Brady. But I also look at, when he was in Seattle, I thought he was completely misused. It was a Jimmy Graham duplication again. He was a receiving tight end that we brought into an offense that didn't know how to use a receiving tight end. And his stats suffered from it. And he got injured, and it just wasn't a good show. But I'll be honest, anytime Greg Olsen's calling a Seahawks game, I am much happy with that. I'm going to be really interesting to see what happens when it's Drew Brees. Because isn't he now filling in for Mark Sanchez?
Yes.
Or taking over Mark Sanchez's role. So he'll be an interesting one to listen to. We've got Islam in here. Frustrating L to the Lambs again in an important game. To make matters worse, that rat Puka throws shade on us. Need a statement blowout win Thursday night to get respect. I don't know what Puka said. I haven't heard what Puka said about it, but
I don't know either, but I think the one frustrating thing that I think a lot of fans feel is the Seahawks are now 0-2 against the 49ers and the Rams this year. And it just goes back to, when was the last meaningful game that we beat the 49ers, and when was the last meaningful game that we beat the Rams? And if you want to count last year with Geno and that running touchdown to beat up Niners team, that's fine. But if you don't, going back, you have to go back a ways to find the last time both these teams were good. All those teams were good that we actually beat them. And that sucks. That sucks. And you don't change that narrative, and you don't win division titles until you start beating those two teams.
Nope. Agreed. And, here's Dan again. Kubiak needs to stop overthinking. Go with what you're good at. If we lose that way, we can all live with that, right? Yep. I can live with that. If you go with what you're good at and it doesn't work, you can live with it because it's a fact of we didn't deviate. We didn't do something out of the norm to create the situation we were in.
Right.
The thing that drives me nuts is, the fact that they gave us what we had been wanting for. I can't wait to see the percentages, but I'm pretty sure that was the lightest box Seattle has seen all year, and we didn't run the ball against it. Nearly enough, in my opinion. Like,
nope.
It just wasn't. Kumar here, this is a really good one. Seahawks, one of the other great journalists. I totally agree. Dan is a class act and one of the best out there.
No, he's amazing.
What else? I'd rather be flying an X-Wing. Always good to see you in here, my friend. I feel like Klint Kubiak overthinks these games with similar offenses. He gets in his own head and tries to outthink them, which gets us into plays that don't take advantage of our strengths. Nope, completely agree. This is an interesting one. Carney in here, another Rams fan. Appreciate you being in here, man. Only a 2-point difference because McVay plays conservative with the league. If the Hawks scored more, McVay would have put the ball more in Stafford's hands instead of Corum's. Yeah, and I think that's what McVay is learning a little bit now with his Rams teams is they have a defense. He can lean into that. I think you go back and watch McVay early on with those Goff teams and Gurley and stuff. Like, yes, they had Aaron Darnold, but they didn't really have a full complement yet around him on defense. And you saw McVay press a little bit more. And I think that was a indicative thing of in the Super Bowl against New England, right? He didn't lean into that defense. He really went full tilt. And it wasn't until they got Stafford and Ramsey and all the other pieces on that defense did he start playing more of the, hey, I can let my defense go out there and do things. So I totally agree with you, Carney, on that one. Flamma, Sam is not good as at drop back, I think is what that's supposed to say. I wouldn't say he's not good at drop back. I just would say he's not good at when that's 75 to 80% of your passing game. And most quarterbacks aren't. Like, statistically speaking, there's very few quarterbacks that you can sit there and go, hey, go cool, drop back, 75% of the time, pure drop back, and sling the ball over the yard and complete, 65 to 70% of your passes. It's just not going to happen. You look at there's been very few quarterbacks throughout time that have done that. Even Peyton Manning wasn't a guy that could do that. Peyton lived off of play action. He made famous the wide zone stretch play action play. It's not something that's, a thing that you can do. I would not say Sam is not good at dropbacks. Slarty comes in with Rams are the first team this year to change up the defensive plan against the Hawks. The other teams mostly did the same thing. Agreed. The Rams literally went, hey, we will dare you to run the ball and dink and dunk us down the field. And you're going to have to live with that because we are not giving you explosive plays. Outside of JSN's one-handed catch, and I think it was an 18-yard completion, so it doesn't count as a 20-yard explosive, but an 18-yard completion to Shaheed on a boot play, Seattle was pretty much held in check most of the day.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just I credit Shula, right? Like, again, I feel like that was the first time I've really gotten a chance to see him, in that moment, a big game, and he absolutely delivered. Like, we talk about all the mistakes that the Seahawks made, and that is true. They made a lot of mistakes, but again, props to Shula. He looked something about these defensive coordinators in McVay, they really step up when they're defensive coordinators over there, and it's just a frustrating thing because it seems like it's like the Achilles heel of our team is we're young and we make this mistake where we can't stay patient and we just can't control ourselves, right? It's like that youthful energy, that you're excited, you want to do it, like you just can't hold back. And again, the cool thing is though, we get to play the 49ers again. Maybe we can time we're going to play the Rams again. At this point, it looks like we might see Tampa Bay again in the playoffs, in that wild card round if we can't get the division. So babies, young, young teams get these chances sometimes to see how much they've learned in one season. Some teams are unfortunate. They have to wait until the next season to learn again. And things are shaping up where we know for sure Seattle will get a chance to right the wrongs of San Francisco and right the wrongs of Los Angeles. And maybe that's enough to win your division. Maybe that's not, and you're still stuck in that 5. But this is part of that championship, building that foundation of learning from these wounds and these scars that will make you tougher to defeat later on when it matters most.
Yeah, agreed. I got Jason James in here. Always appreciate your comments, Jason. He goes, I think it's simple. It's Mike telling Kubiak in these division games, we're not showing them anything, and a little of what Amy said. I don't know if Mike's saying don't show them anything or we're not showing them anything. I think Mike kind of even alluded to that today. There's no holding things to your chest as a coach. It's Clint's got to find a way to, and I think Mike is probably telling, we've got to find a way to stay to our formula. Yes, add your wrinkles, but don't lose our identity as a team. And I think in some respects, Seattle did lose that. They are a run, play action team, and Seattle lost that identity in this game. And again, it's the same thing. We lost the identity versus the 49ers. We all came out of that 49ers game going, this wasn't the team we were promised in, the summer, and the run team that we saw in the preseason. What happened? It's kind of that same story again. Let's see. What else do we got going on in here? Get a couple more of these. This is an interesting one from Jason, actually. Kupp gets 0 yards of separation, and that throw to Shaheed was horrible. Another bad take by the blowhorn content creator. Otherwise, the thing with Kupp, I look at Kupp and I go, Torrey Horton missing is hurting this offense.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't. He struggles getting the separation. And the Shaheed throw, I said it yesterday when that throw to Shaheed, I wouldn't say it was a horrible throw. It was a throw that needed to be on the back pylon. It needs to be a throw where it's going out the back of that end zone and Shaheed's literally having to catch it and toe tap to stay in. You can't let a trailing DB be able to have the ability to get a hand on it. I think that's just an adjustment for Darnold on where to put that ball for Rashid because he hasn't thrown to him a lot. Where else do we got in here? We got a lot of stuff going on.
Just a heads up, I am low on battery, so I may have to hop off here in about 5 minutes.
Okay, all good. We'll get this wrapped up here pretty shortly here, Mike. Kevin O'Connell, bro, we had the worst game in recent memory offensively, minus Gino last year in Chicago, and the Rams barely beat us. We are there. Yeah,
all right.
We're getting there. We're getting there. That's for sure. Let's see, what else do we got?
This offense is going to hang like 40 on the Titans, right? That's probably what's going to happen.
I'll go as high as 27.
Ooh,
Dan with this day-to-day translation, not going to play against the Titans because we don't need him. That's fair.
Amen.
This is an interesting one from Dan. I didn't think of this. He goes, personally, I like to see what Josh Jones looks like at guard, but I understand why it needs to be Haynes or Cable do. Yeah, Jones could be that person. They did bring him in as a swing tackle, but he has guard experience. That's an interesting one. What else do we got in here? I'm just looking through. Oh, we got another one here. Cheeky comes in. Appreciate the donation, Cheeky. Thanks for the honest opinion. What are y'all looking for in the next games? It's going to come down to the wire. I'll be honest, Seattle's got to stick to their identity. The defense keeps doing what they're doing. I think we're fine. I don't have any concerns really with what Mike's doing on the defensive side. It's with the offense, and we have to stay true to it. I think they've also got to do a better job of settling on a running back. Because the one thing I will say we didn't really talk about, this split carry thing that they're doing, like K9 starts getting on a roll there. And I was in the 12 talk track, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be Charbonnet. I know they're going to bring Charbonnet in just randomly here, and it's going to start the drive. And it's like, I don't get this back and forth, and I get they're trying to, is Greg Bell, when I had him on the show, discussed that they're still managing an injury for K9. But, like, even he seems frustrated that, like, these knee-jerk pull and put in and put, like, as a running back, especially in this type of system, part of it is learning how your linemen block for you. And how they are going to set cutback lanes and stuff. And if you aren't in there to get enough reps, it's hard to find out what your track's going to be. And he's starting to do a better job of it, but it's still this kind of knee-jerk reaction. And it's just, to me, like, I think that's why even Mike said today, like, K9's earned more opportunities. We got to get him more opportunities. Okay, then I want to see that. I want to see K9 with over 20 carries this weekend against the Titans. I want to see him upwards 20 to 23 carries and get him involved in the passing game, because he had 3 catches for 44 yards in this game. Like, get him involved.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think you're right. I definitely think it's time for K9, and I think the expectation is that you need to take care of the next 3 games. Those are the 3 easiest games on your schedule, and you need to take care of business, go 3-0, and then you've got that 4-game series to finish out the year to go win a division title and maybe go set yourself up to win the NFC #1 seed with the Colts, the Rams, Panthers, and the 49ers. Like, I think you don't get to think about those 4 games until you take care of these 3 games. And that is a game-by-game basis where you need to not overlook the Titans. You need to take care of the Titans, take care of the Vikings, take care of the Falcons, and then you are in championship playoff mode. I think that is how you get to earn that right for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. But you know what, Mike? I know you're running short on time here, so we will do. Oh, we got one more donation. Don't want to miss this. Kumar again, $5. Thank you. One more shout out to you two. You're all a great listen. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. That's awesome.
And I think Mookie showed up. Mookie did show up. We'll get Mookie in here. O-line didn't get bullied, but they definitely didn't win consistently enough in key situations. Mookie, I loved your post on the 2 snippets from Bradford's plays in this game. Those are 2 outrageously missed blocks that they got to find a way to clean that up. Like, we can't be missing those. I want to quickly give a shout out to Amy Holmes, who's our moderator in the chat tonight, and Ian Victor as well, who moderates a lot of the chats. Appreciate all the work you guys do in keeping this chat, respectful and, welcoming all the fans that we get in here, even from the other teams. It's great. So you know what? I just want to say I appreciate everything you guys do. And to all the listeners and viewers out there, they're in the chat, in the comments. I always appreciate and interacting with you guys, to make sure you keep commenting on all the other videos I put up there, because I love the interaction. So I think that's going to wrap it up tonight for me and Mike here on Seahawks Aftermath. So Mike, final word. What do you got going on coming up on field goals? What articles are you dropping? And what's your expectation for that Titans game?
Yeah, no, should have a 4-down territory breaking down the week coming up tomorrow. And then been dropping every Saturday, trying to drop some college football players to keep an eye on as we're getting closer to the end of the season there. And then, I expect the Seahawks to go to Tennessee pissed off, and I expect them to dominate, and I'll go 34-10 Seahawks.
All right. Well, I've got over here, we'll have obviously a preview show as we always do this week. So I'll be doing a live one of those. So make sure when I put that out, you guys jump into that conversation. Outside of that, I will be doing how do I want to classify this? It'll be the 8 irreplaceable Seahawks of 2025. So it'll be a list of 8 players on this team that I view are completely irreplaceable and potentially should be on this roster next year. So I'll have that video out for you guys later this week, as well with another Hawks film lab with Dan Viens, and we will be breaking down the interceptions and some of the passing call situations that Klint Kubiak and Sam Darnold face versus the Los Angeles Rams this weekend. We'll be breaking down the all-22 on that. So we got those shows coming up. And we'll have our typical Seahawks instant reaction post-game show with me following the Seahawks game on Sunday morning. So with all of that being said, as always, stay loud, be proud, and go Hawks. Have a good night, everybody.